A title, Einstein's Big Idea. Now the word nova reappears.
We gave top physicists 2 short minutes to explain Einstein's big idea. On NOVA's website, you can hear how they did it, tell us what you think about this program, and much more. Find it on pbs.org.
This program has been described by the Media Access Group at WGBH, described by Jan Stankus, Laura Paler, and Melissa Carlson, read by Chloe Lehman. For more about description, call DVS at 1-800-333-1203. Cast: Aidan McCardle as Albert Einstein.
To order this program on DVD or VHS or the book E=mc², a biography of the world's most famous equation, please call WGBH Boston Video at 1-800-255-9424.
Cast continues. Shirley Henderson as Maleva Merrick. Stephen Robertson as Michael Faraday. Ty Glazer as Marianne Lavoisier. Julian Rhind-Tutt as Antoine Lavoisier. Hélène de Fougerolles as Emily de Châtelet, and Emily Wolfe as Lisa Meitner. Credits: Senior Executive Producer Paula S. Apsell. A NOVA production by Darlow Smithson Productions. Copyright 2005 WGBH.
NOVA is a production of WGBH Boston. Corporate funding for NOVA is provided by Google.
Major funding for NOVA is provided by the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, serving society through biomedical research and science education, HHMI.
Funding for Einstein's Big Idea is provided by the National Science Foundation, America's investment in the future, and by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation to enhance public understanding of science and technology, and the U.S. Department of Energy, fostering science and security. Major funding for NOVA is also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by PBS viewers like you. Thank you.
A Man Dances.
I am PBS.
Be more PBS.